Hello, Dewey. I know I gave you a hard time in my recent Dark Souls response to Zack, but I know that you wouldn't take that personally now, would you? Right, Dewey? You wouldn't take it personally, right? Regardless, I want to inform you, Dewey, about a Redwall video game that has been announced. This is a little bit of an odd video because I'm not entirely sure that I'm excited for this game yet. I'm a little bit skeptical. But the reason why I'm letting you know, Dewey, is because I know that you love The Lord of the Rings. But how much more would you love The Lord of the Rings if the protagonist was a mouse? Now hear me out here, alright? He's not battling man-sized orcs, but when he fights a badger, that badger is as large as a badger is to a mouse. But he's a hero. He's a brave hero. And that's essentially the premise of Redwall. Redwall takes place in an abbey, but it's an oddly non-religious book. Redwall is the name of the abbey, and it's this confluence of different creatures that are all anthropomorphic, they can all talk, but they are in fact animals. And this book is foundational to my childhood. It is something that I grew up with, something that my mother read to me before bed. The author of these books, Brian Jacques, died in 2011, and he hated video games and said that there would never be a Redwall game. But now that he's dead, the people that own the intellectual property rights are making a game anyways. So who's making the Redwall game, right? This is a little bit of the concern that I have, is that the developer is named Soma Games, and it's hard to find too much information about Soma Games. Their website is oddly difficult to use and has oddly little information about the games that they've made. I'm sure that those games are real and exist, but I've never played them, and from just glancing at the website, it's almost impossible for me to determine what the games are like at all. There's no gameplay screenshots or brief summaries of the game or even many descriptions of genre. So I'm not entirely sure what we're expecting in terms of gameplay here, but I'm just excited that there's an officially licensed Redwall game coming out now. With all that said, I have to say, after reading their announcement of the Redwall game, I kinda like these guys. This is a direct quote from their announcement of the game. It seems worth being cautious at this point, skeptical even, for the sake of preventing any possible mix-ups. It's super early in our process, and still many things could scuttle this effort prior to launch. I'm not trying to be a downer, we're very optimistic, but the web is littered with 15 years of so-called announcements for Redwall games or movies, and all of them so far have fallen short of expectations or managed to produce an actual product. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to say, or not managed to produce an actual product. With that in mind, to be anything less than cautious would be hubris, so please, take that in the spirit it's given, the big fat grain of salt. They then go on to mention something that started out a bit concerning to me. We thought aloud about whether or not Redwall was a fit with the core values and mission of Soma Games. Answering that required a lot of thought and prayer. We take our voice and mission very, very seriously. While in no way a Christian series, the books are deeply spiritual, epic in scope and tone, and full of the right messages for courage, self-sacrifice, peace, and humility. Now, I happen to be an atheist. I'm not one of those atheists that goes and crams that down other people's throats. Every time in my entire life that someone has said, "God bless you" to me, I've never once been like, I'm an atheist and I don't appreciate that. So you'll understand if this was getting a little bit for me here. We're kind of getting into territory where I'm like, now my secular series of children's books is apparently being handled by a Christian game studio that will pray that their game is good. But by the time I get to that right messages thing, I'm totally back on board. I 100% think that there's religious people that basically think the way that I am, but just see the world through a lens that includes a god. That's fine. And they finally assuage, like my final little bit of concern on that front by saying, to long-standing secular Redwall fans, fear not, we are not making a Christian video game. To Soma Games fans who know about our faith, fear not, we are not making Diablo for mice. So that's fine with me. I feel like they probably wouldn't have been able to get the license if they were like, well, we were thinking, what if we turned all of the storylines into heavy-handed metaphors for the story of Christ? Which I don't think anyone wants to see that. It sounds like Soma Games doesn't even want to see that. So yeah, a very young studio it looks like, maybe, kind of, sort of, I have no clue. They don't have a Wikipedia page, so I can't even really get much information outside of their website, which is a whole lot of talking about stuff that doesn't immediately give an outsider the core information about their game. With all that said, Dewey, I'm not sure that I can ask you to be excited about this game because I'm not even sure whether I'm excited about this game. What I can say is that I am intrigued and I can't wait to see how this goes exactly, and I will see you tomorrow.